As a rule, the best way to deal with writing yourself into a corner is simply not to do so in the first place. Oftentimes, authors write themselves into corners that require contrivance or severe convenience to escape from because they want something cool or dramatic to happen and don't think about how it affects the integrity of their world until after the fact. Then they panic as they try to worm themselves out. This stinks of the law of sunken investment, where you've put so much effort into orchestrating an event or scene that you refuse to abandon it. It's a very natural position and an easy trap to fall into. Narrative corners are where people lose so many of their readers, or cause their audience to stop watching a show because the inconsistency or lack of planning is so glaring that simple spectacle can't overcome it. There are a few ways that narrative corners can be dealt with, and, as I said, the best way to deal with them is to resist the urge for scale. To avoid the temptation to make some scene dramatic or action-packed simply out of fear that your story will become stale or that you're not really sure how to carry the story forward. This is perfectly normal, and many writers struggle with the balance of continuity and consistency against pace and action. This is made harder as it isn't always obvious to see where you've done this because you're too close to the story, you're too invested in making this thing part of the narrative. So avoid doing it altogether if you can, but let's say you've written yourself into a corner, but you are desperate to keep this scene as the integral part of your story. So what can we do? Well, it's very hard to get rid of a problem if we can't understand what it is, so the first thing we need to do is to highlight the things that are causing issues. Is it a practicality issue on the part of the characters? Is it a time issue in terms of the pacing? Is it a distance problem? Do you have a character at risk or a situation escalating too quickly when it is simply meant to be something cool? Whatever the issue might be, identifying it is key. Have somebody read over your work, and when they frown or suck on their teeth, take their concerns seriously. If they say that they don't believe it, listen to them, and don't automatically jump up to the defense of your work with meta expectations. You can't do this with a reader in another country, so don't waste your time doing it here. Take the feedback as honest, and work on the issues that have been found. How you do that might simply be changing the dynamics of the scene a little, so you're not in a hole, or it may be making larger changes further back in the story to foreshadow an event. There could be many things going on here, but having someone else look at them can help a lot. There is a point of diminishing returns, however, where you're changing so much about your narrative and world just to squeeze one scene or moment in. Only you can decide how important its inclusion to the story is, but consider that keeping your story streamlined, consistent, and uncontrived should always be the priority as an author. At some point, changing everything for one moment's inclusion simply isn't worth it, and it is more important to keep one event simpler so the larger narrative can flow more easily. This is where editing can play a key role. When you're reviewing your work, try to focus on trimming unnecessary drama or action. Often readers will have the patience to stick with a book that is consistent and defined rather than being jolted from set piece that feel crowbarred in for the sake of pace. Really think about how essential something is before you start changing everything else to make it work. Occam's razor is an established rule for this reason. Another, perhaps more interesting way out of a corner is to let the drama play itself out. If your character has ended up backed into a corner and only a contrivance can save them, why not play with the idea of letting them suffer the consequences of their actions? You clearly thought the event or scene was worthy of being included for some drama, so why not let that drama continue to play out? As most contrivances come from trying to have your cake and eat it, spectacle and safety, it can be very interesting to let go of the safety. Let the chaos take over and take responsibility for the corner's inclusions. It massively raises the stakes if there is no deus ex machina to bail you out, and what could be simple, contrived fix turns into a more complicated and emotional affair. You don't even have to keep this, but letting things play out as naturally as possible can be a great way to get some unique and original ideas for your story and explore characters a little more. Maybe an actor will die because of your writing decisions. Maybe somebody will fail. Maybe hearts will be broken and people need to pick up those pieces. Sometimes you can get out of a corner by continuing to dig, and the outcomes can surprise both you and the reader. This, of course, depends on the nature of the corner. If the corner itself breaks the established rules of your story, or sets a precedent, or introduces an ability that undermines other elements of the story, then it should probably be cut. But if rules will only be broken by the contrivance to escape the corner, then you can let things play out and see how you feel afterwards. So try your best not to write into corners to begin with. They are traps where many good stories go to die. Avoid the temptation of coolness and drama in favour of narrative stability and character consistency. But if you do find yourself cornered by your own ideas, then it may be worth seeing what happens and finding a way out through the corner itself.